Hello, puppies and kittens. This is today's show. There's a link, and also the number is 720. Okay. Fuck if I know. Yeah, I have no idea. All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'm going to be told to start again. So, hello, puppies and kittens. My name is Aron, and we are on SkepTalk. There is a link to call in, or you can dial the number direct 720-619-2288. I am joined today by Rebecca Vitsmun, and it's really good to see you again, Rebecca. It's been years and years and years. I remember running into you at a conference at some point, and I've got the feedback from somewhere else. Go ahead and tell how we met up.
The first time we ever met was at Free OK in 2013, right after the tornado, I believe. And you came and you asked if you could take a picture with me. And I was like, sure. Because other people have been asking that. And then whenever you walked away, somebody goes, does that happen to you a lot? And I was like, yeah, people ask to take pictures with me. And he's like, no. People like art. And I was like, I don't know who that is. And then that's how it started. And then now I know who you are. I wasn't really a part of the community then.
For people who don't know who you are, famously you were, well, actually, I'm going to let you tell your story, unless you're tired of it, because I know you told a bunch of people.
Oh, I'm fine. I can talk. Okay. Yeah, I can talk. Go ahead. Okay. So people best know me because I'm that tornado atheist lady where I was holding my baby and Wolf Blitzer said, you got to thank the Lord, right? Do you thank the Lord? And I am autistic. And so the only thing that I can do is say no. And instead I was like, oh, that would be really awkward. And so I went with, I'm actually an atheist. And then I laughed in his face, which was also awkward. So then he did a little awkward dance. But that's how people know me best.
Okay. And just to remind everybody that super chats will be read of what is our amount? Because it's not in here. I love it. $5 or more. Yeah, will be read at the end of the show. So, are we going to jump into calls? We have a call. Let me check. No, I don't see anybody calling right now. Nobody wants to talk to us. So we're just going to have to talk about... No, I don't, actually. Let me refresh my page, see if that matters. New? New? I don't think so. Oh, here we go. Okay, finally. I guess I didn't hit all the right buttons. All right, so we have Bill. I'm going to go ahead and bring Bill into the line. And you're on SkepTalk. Bill,
Hi,
I see the question is... Yeah. Go ahead.
So anyway, yeah, I'm not real familiar with Mormonism, and I know you are. The ancient Israelites that his name was Nephi or Nephi. What was it?
Well, that's one of them. But yeah, there's a bunch of similar names.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, they all gathered together, got in boats, and traveled from the Middle East over to South America. That's the story, right?
Yes. Well, there's some discrepancy as to whether it's South America or North America, because I don't know why there's this source of disagreement. But I was always told that all of these things are supposed to be going on in South America, but other people are telling me now that no, this is actually all supposed to be centered around Missouri.
It's both. Okay. It's both of those. Sorry. What I was going to say is if you go into a Mormon, ward, you'll see the South American artwork. And these same people will go to Missouri to, visit the kind of like a Holy Land situation. So definitely they have both.
Well, my question was, how important is this story to Mormonism? If someone were to debunk, and I'm ready to do that, if someone could show evidence that this never happened, it couldn't have happened, does that make Mormonism go away, or is that not that critical?
I have to wonder what it would take to make Mormonism go away. I mean, I've heard quite a bit about the CES letter, and I can't understand why Mormonism still exists as a result of that. I would have thought that finding out that Joseph Smith had been convicted of fraud for using seer stones to defraud people prior to inventing this religion, I would have thought that would have been sufficient to end the religion. Yet strangely,
but no.
I can't agree, because I've seen the ways in which human beings will take situations like that. So if you were to say he was convicted of fraud, they could say, oh, well, they did that because, they were targeting him and la, 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 la. And there's some way that you can just step right around that.
But it was
if you're trying.
It was before he invented Mormonism.
And so I can hear you say that, and also they don't have to make sense. Deep down.
Okay. All right, I hear you.
Oh, hi, Jimmy.
Does that answer your question?
Well, no. Is that story critical to Mormonism? Because I've read a few things, and you probably already heard these things, that there's a distinct and marked absence of linguistic, archaeological, and genetic, any kind of evidence. Certainly, the genetic evidence would be the slam dunk. That that's not present in the American population. So the indigenous people in the Americas all came from Asia.
I don't think there is a religion that cares at all about having evidence. They don't need evidence, because this is all make-believe. All they want to be able to be sure of is that you can't prove it wrong. And then even when you prove it wrong, they'll come up with bullshit excuses for how it's not proven wrong. We've proved that the flood of Noah never happened, that there's no such thing as a kind, that birds are dinosaurs. All of this is terribly critical to creationism. We know that Adam and Eve are genetically impossible. The Tower of Babel did not happen. Noah's flood didn't happen. The Garden of Eden is just a composite of elder mythology, and it's all fantasy folklore. We know that. There's no question about it. The religion persists. We not only have no evidence of souls, we have evidence against souls, but people still believe.
And I think it still comes down to they don't need it to make sense. Right? It just becomes like that's a line that gets drawn as these people who have these beliefs they see this evidence, and then they say, I'm going to just check that. That if you can do that, then you're working with a different set of different set of rules than I am.
Yeah, and it's funny how we think that everybody follows the same sets of rules that I do. I always thought that everybody had this obligation that if you show that something is a fact, well, I'm going to have to, and it contradicts my position, I'm going to have to acknowledge that fact, and I'm going to have to acknowledge that it contradicts my position. But no, I could just make believe that you're just part of the conspiracy, and that all of this is an illusion.
And if it gives me scary feelings that I don't want to deal with, that go too deeply, I'm just going to shut down and do what works.
Yeah.
So in any event, the answer is no. It wouldn't have any negative effect on Mormonism whatsoever.
May I?
Yes.
Please.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, as the resident ex-Mormon here, this has been the hardest call to not just jump in the entire fucking time. Bill, not only would it not matter, it's not a matter of hypothetical. It doesn't matter. The church has been debunked. The church is not true, and we can empirically take on that burden of proof and demonstrated as such not to be. And you're talking about the people who for a while, they've changed their tune recently, used to say that dinosaur bones, not fossils, but dinosaur bones were put there by Satan to trick us. You're talking about...
I did no such thing.
Yeah, right. My own brother-in-law, I once was talking about, like, I was sort of saying, like, you know, at least most of the Mormons I know are reasonable. The ones I still talk to are reasonable. Like, I've known Mormons in the past who, if aliens came down and said, we actually have a video recording of Joseph Smith's entire life, here's him admitting to making it all up. And I'd said, like, I know Mormons who've met with that evidence would still go like, well, I assume the aliens are lying. And my brother-in-law literally said, I'm one of those Mormons. It doesn't, it's not a matter of would it not matter. It is disproven. And Aron mentioned the CES letter. If you want to just read the list of reasons why the church isn't true, it's one of the best. And it's, you know, it only takes a day to read. It's only not even a day. It's 100 pages. You could have that thing knocked out in 2 hours. But it's basically just a list of all of the anachronisms in the Book of Mormon, all of the historical problems, all the shit, all of Joseph Smith's problems, all of the changes, the multiple accounts of the first vision, which is the most important element of the origin of the church. Like, it's not just a matter of would it, it's a matter of it doesn't matter.
Well, and I'd like to add to that. There's another aspect, and going back to what I was saying before about, you know, like you got to shut down and do what works. Part of it is you lose your family, right? I was previously married to an ex-Mo, and he, you know, got his letter, and the bishop came to our house and knocked on the door. And I remember standing there and talking to this man while he held this letter that he was going to give to my husband. And when I opened it and read it, I'm not Mormon and I'm an atheist, and I'm reading, I'm like, what the fuck? Right? I was so mad that he smiled at my face.
Is this the summons to church court, or is it like
no?
A mission letter?
This was the you are officially no longer a Mormon. You have lost your space, you know, with your eternal, you know, family. You know, and so I was like, he smiled in my face when he was about to hand me a letter that told you lost your infinite space with your family forever. Like, what an asshole.
In a way, though, I totally envy your ex-husband. I don't know if I'm actually gay or if I'm just fucking men to try to get excommunicated, but I can't seem to pull one of those excommunications myself.
I've heard that they're like not doing them as regularly anymore to kind of bolster their numbers, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know for a fact. That's just what I've been told.
It's that and how popular wearing hidden microphones to your church court thing has become. So they've shut it down, especially for public figures. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to catch one.
Yeah. Well, we got one, and I remember thinking, if somebody was holding the thread of losing my eternal position with my family for all of eternity, like, and I had come from thinking all of that was real, I would be scared to take that first step away from it. It's just terrifying, right? But, you know, once you're on the other side, it's not scary because it's just silly and nonsense.
Yeah. So Bill, have we adequately addressed that?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, appreciate it. I can see a couple of other calls.
Sure.
I can see a couple of other calls coming up here. So, all right, thank you much. All right, and so you too. All right, so we're dropping this one, and I'm going to move to what it would look like. I've got the same one twice. I've got another question about Mormonism. And here, I don't know if I can trust this one. Oh, that's just dropped off the list.
Yeah, we've got, there's a theist who keeps trying to call and seems to be failing to maintain a connection. But so right now you've got Patrick queued up well enough while we try to get this theist call attached and other calls screened.
Okay. Taking Patrick. All right, Patrick, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Aron. And how you do?
I'm doing great. I have to say, you are one of my favorite science communicators. I'm legitimately starstruck right now talking to you. I can't believe it, honestly. Yeah. a major fan here.
Thank you very much. Feeling awkward, but okay. All right. So you have a question about psychometrics.
Well, it's less of a question as opposed to a correction for you.
Okay.
And ironically, you were just talking about this, how given objective, demonstrable facts, you're obligated to respond to them. I think, and if this is not still the case, of course, correct me, I think I've heard you, and it was actually Jimmy Snow, essentially state that, hello, am I still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. So let me not pay attention to the video. Essentially, I think I heard you and Jimmy Snow say that you do not believe or do not think that IQ is a valid psychometric concept. And I just want to point out as a science communicator that it is actually quite valid and in fact one of the most reproducible psychometrics.
I think what I've always complained about is that IQ is presented as linear, and that's always been my problem with it.
Yeah, and as far as since I was in the future, call me when you want to call me out. But anyway, yeah, my problem with it is that it is that IQ tests are not actually a good merit of if IQ does conceptually exist, are not actually a good method of universally measuring a person's IQ. There's already plenty of studies that they're culturally biased and that they are more a measure of how good you are at taking IQ tests more than they are at actually establishing what your IQ is.
And that's the very important point. There was a time, a lot of those studies saying that they're, for example, culturally biased or that the tests are flawed are from about 30 years ago. And things have moved on since then. And what you'll find is that there are still sources of error. For example, if you're not able to relax in an IQ test, of course, that particular test won't be a good reflection of your IQ score. But you will find that scores are actually both highly reproducible and, secondly, very indicative of general intelligence, G, the thing they represent. And I should say, what they're representing is the unintuitive but observably true fact that mental performance on seemingly different mental tasks turns out to be not independent. You will find that when you assess people doing different mental tasks, the performance on different ones are actually correlated, and that is what G is.
Can I step and say something here? Hi. Yeah. So I have a lot of feelings about IQ tests. I tested extremely high my entire life. So around 12 was the last time that they formally did it. I was at 155 then. And I have a lot of feelings about that because, I perceive things differently. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and autism, and both of those affect how I perceive things. And so I'm both very good at taking IQ tests, and also you would be really shocked at what I'm terrible at, right? And so there's yes, you'll be able to measure something, but how important is that something? And, what can you do with what it is testing? I feel like the thing that it's testing might not be nearly as important as we put on that. And so, yes, okay, it's something that gives us data and we can do something with that data, but what can we do with that data and what does it mean? I don't know. Because for me, I'm one of the autistic people who process things in shapes. And so when somebody's talking, I have to translate all these shapes into something that makes sense and then come back out with what I have translated from shapes into words. And so, right? So it's a good measure of how well somebody can determine shapes, I guess. Because statistically, autistic people tend to do pretty well on that test.
I don't remember how young I was when I took my first one. I was a child, 3rd, 4th grade, something like that, when I took an IQ test, and they had me at genius level for my age, but I don't remember taking any solace in that because of the idea that it was completely linear. And I had to look at all of the different ways that people think and analyze. And as she was just describing, there are different aptitudes that different people have, that mentality can encompass an awful lot. So I have to view intelligence as being kind of an exploding spectrum of color. I mean, there's just so many different things you could measure. It's like saying that somebody is strong when they could run 20 miles, or they could lift weights. But you got two different people. One of them can lift a great deal of weight, but that's all they can do, and then the other one can run a great distance, but that's all they can do. Your mental aptitude is much the same thing, I think. And
yeah, this it's like one aspect.
This is what I was thinking when I was a small child. They would ask me multiple questions, right? There would be two utterly, completely stupid choices for the multiple choice answer. There's the only one that makes sense, and then there's two that are utterly ridiculous. How does that qualify as an intelligence test?
Well, you're projecting in thinking that everyone else is able to perceive it as ridiculous, but of course what you'll find is not everyone is able to actually see that. But you both asked exactly the correct thing, and you brought up two things which are important. This is a statistical measure, and so neurotypical people will have variance between different aspects of their performance on mental tasks. And when you look at two people who are similar in their general intelligence, their particular variances will be dominant. But when you look across wide ranges, you'll find that it actually is not dominant. And for example, Einstein may be known for mathematics and physics, but he probably has a better memory than the average person in the population. And this is just an empirical fact that you'll find, and it's an uncomfortable one, but it is very well reproducible. And so that goes to, Aron, your point about different aptitudes. As it turns out, they're not independent.
So tests on chimpanzee I'm sorry, finish your point.
Well, no, that's just the important unintuitive fact that you can observe is that different tasks or things that we see as different tasks are not independent statistically. And when you look at most people, they are measuring some shared correlative factor for general performance. And a good example would be
I'm going to cut in. Hey, Patrick, I'm going to cut in. Do you have a core point to all of this? Because on my end, here's what we've got. You called in. Aron and I have said some things. You didn't agree with them. We've clarified those points. And then you've said counter to what we might think there is now from the past. Those things have been corrected. So presumably that means that modern day IQ tests have some amount of peer review and studies that show they're now universally reliable. And our progress from that point won't really be possible until Aron and I have verified that for ourselves. Because while Patrick, you seem like the nicest guy in the world, I am hardly just going to take the word of some dude who calls in. So if there's a greater point you want to make, I think that this is the point we would leave it at. Otherwise, this is just kind of a boring conversation about IQs. No offense, Patrick, but we want to get on to the actual topic of the night, which IQ has really nothing to do with.
Yeah. Go ahead. My only point, the purpose of this call was to point out to Aron and yourself that as it stands, you are citing an incorrect scientific fact. And this is the opportunity to prove to the theists that you will actually do corrections. And look into that, and you'll see, indeed, it is reproducible.
We will take that note as your assertion, certainly, and I will look into it and see what peer review and scientific studies that you're suggesting, you haven't said it directly, exist.
But it sounds to me like we still agree.
This, but I am a scientist in this field, so
yeah,
sure.
But it sounds like we agree also.
So is half of Ken Ham's staff. So Patrick, I don't know you, buddy.
So, yeah, totally. It's irrelevant. NIH General Intelligence. Look it up.
Cool.
You'll see. It's actually the basis of many genetics research.
But I don't see where we disagree. I said that the problem with IQ tests is that they were presented as linear, and you seemed to agree with that.
I don't know what linear means. What do you mean linear?
Okay, so rate of smart 1 through 10. That's it. If we test chimpanzee memory, If we test chimpanzees, we see that statistically, chimpanzees have far more memory capacity than we do. They can remember things much more quickly than we can. They can do an order of numbers faster than we can, or better, or more accurately than we can. And many other mammals have the ability to have a far greater memory than we do. That's part of our intelligence, is it not? But that's an aspect of it. So that doesn't fit on the linear scale, the 1 through 10 of how smart you are. So that's all I was saying was the problem with them. And there's some people that have perfect memory. There's some people that are astounding in mathematics, but have absolutely no social skills or have no ability to do analytic thought or self-critical thought. And some people have great mathematics skills in that, but can't question their own assumptions. So there's an awful lot of different shards, different directions we can look at for intelligence. And that's what I said my problem with IQ tests was. And I think we agree on that, do we not?
I'll make it spicy so the call's not boring. I think you are stating incorrect perceptions that you have of what is being said. For example, the linearity. Your IQ score is not a linear scale. It is essentially associating a number with your degrees of statistical separation from the mean. It's essentially
so it's not a linear scale. It's just a scale of a line.
No, it's not a line. It's saying what's your standard deviation from the mean. Right?
It's a bell curve.
Exactly.
But it's still the same thing.
Talking in units of
it's still putting a single. It's still putting a single metric instead of recognizing multiple aspects.
Yes, definitely a spectrum or various different numbers along with that one would be more helpful than just a single.
But that's the point. I guess line. Maybe I'm not actually. Maybe it's not clear what I mean when I say that different tasks are statistically correlated. What that means is that this high dimensional space of different things that you could do well on is actually not full dimensional. It's one dimensional.
Are you the one that sent me an email a day or two ago talking about higher dimensional aspect of the brain? Did you send me an email like this like 2 or 3 days ago?
No, I did not.
Because somebody told me to go look
what I mean
up.
Is that. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, go ahead. Essentially, what you mean is what?
This is a mathematical fact that is unintuitive, but that is very important for data analysis. Sometimes you have multiple metrics, and you have a huge number of them, and they're independent things, like your mathematical ability, your memory,
exactly,
your writing,
yes.
right?
Right.
And the whole point of IQ is that observationally, when you take all those measurements, you'll find that they actually exist essentially on a line. And based on your score in one,
I see it very differently.
I can generally predict your other. But that
I see that very differently. So for example, there was a game. Was it one of the RPGs back in the day? I think it had based on superheroes, and instead of having you roll dice to figure out what your stats are for a given attribute, they just gave everybody 100 points, and you get to distribute them however you will. So that what ended up happening was however more strength you want cost you intelligence, and all of these sorts of things. There had to be a give and take for you to put all of your specs down. And what you're implying is that intelligence could be something like that, where we know that's, while there are aspects of that where there can be give and take, it's not necessarily the case because we don't come up with the standard set. So if you want to put down a number that encompasses all the different aspects, that means you could have 95% capacity in this one thing, so that you're way above everybody on this one thing, but you suck at everything else.
I'm saying it's exactly the opposite. I'm saying it is provable, and of course, you don't take my.
Okay, I think we need to have this conversation in another format somewhere.
Yeah, bro, turn it into a PowerPoint, record it, and put it on YouTube. Let us watch it, and then call back, because this is.
And then we'll have somebody who's trained in it. I almost started
offering money for this call to end. Jesus Christ.
It's interesting because this is the opportunity to be the way that you tell us to be. I think
thank you so much for the opportunity, Patrick.
Yeah.
I already told you I would.
A little bit of a difference of opinion because we just had 3 people say this is boring and you answered with how interesting it is.
Which it's fine, man. I'm not trying to shit on you or say you're a boring person, but can we before this turns into me trying to save the show by just roasting the fuck out of you, and we already have other callers lining up that'll be more fun.
Yeah, no,
can we just call it a night and just say, Patrick, this was a wonderful call. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes.
You calling to
I'm
give me the
open to
opportunity to
evaluate
show
your
I'm not a
views.
hypocrite. I appreciate that so much, and we'll talk to you next time after you record that PowerPoint.
Yeah, and then we'll have somebody who's
email.
trained in this,
All right, word.
who will then explain it to me, because I won't watch it myself. I need somebody who understands it and translate it to me.
We'll get Shannon.
Thank
to
you.
take care of it.
I'll send an email. Yeah, it's actually not complicated. Look, okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, so we have this one. I can't help. This has got to be a troll. There's no way Andrew could be serious in what he's saying.
Before you take it, I'm going to give you some preempt. Andrew doesn't call when I'm on anymore because Andrew calls the people who thinks they're going to be more polite, basically, about this.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew doesn't necessarily accept that Christianity is for sure true anymore, but he sits on the side of there's so much good that it does, and then here's some statistic about good stuff, and here's how it helps people who are sick, while completely ignoring tons of other stuff. And I dare say Andrew has made this call like 5 times in the last month. So now is your turn to do it.
Didn't he do it 5 times today?
No.
Because he kept dropping off this list.
That was because, that's fine. Andrew just needed to call from... I appreciate Andrew actually trying to make the computer work because the audio is usually better that way, but Andrew called in with the phone this time. So on that, I say thank you, Andrew. But next time, call me. You keep avoiding my shows, you coward. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking that this comment is so ridiculous. There's no way that he could possibly believe what he's saying. That Christianity has made the world better, and the results are the evidence, and it's the best belief system and ever. No. Trollio, be less obvious someplace else. I'm taking somebody else's call.
No, do it. I want to hear. I want to hear you do Andrew. He's sincere. I promise. He is sincere.
There's no way he could be.
I promise he's sincere. I've heard.
I've run into people like this. I know people who are like this and very sincere about it.
What's the worst that can happen? Your other alternative is an atheist who's probably also going to ask me to stop being a hypocrite or give me the worst that can happen.
The worst that can happen is that I'm not qualified to give them the help that they need.
Yeah, it's not that. This is a person.
Maybe I can talk to the guy. Yeah. I'll talk to him. Put him on. I'll talk to him.
It's not Emmanuel. Andrew's miles better than Emmanuel. There you go.
Andrew, you're talking with Rebecca.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hello, Rebecca. Hello,
Hi.
Good. And yourself? What's up, Jimmy?
I'm doing well.
I'm not avoiding Jimmy. I just want to tell Jimmy I'm not avoiding him. Sundays is family day. So that's why I don't call on Sundays.
I get it. I almost don't do the show because it's the Lord's Day and I'm good to my Lord as a good little sub. All right. Well, I'll do a Friday show just for you sometime soon, Andrew.
Sounds good. Okay. So Christianity has made the world better. That's the evidence of its validity. And really quick, saying Christianity is true or false.
Wait. Isn't evidence a body of objectively verifiable facts that are positively indicative of or that indicate one position or eliminate another one? Isn't that what evidence is? It has to first be a fact, right? So a false statement, an out and out lie, a statement of falsehood is not evidence.
Okay.
A baseless claim, opposite of the truth, is not evidence.
Okay. Yeah. So
the horrible circumstance that Christianity has subjected upon this planet is not evidence that it's a good belief system. And every belief system combined is evidence that there's no such thing as a good belief system.
Okay. Hey, Aron, I'm going to step in for just a moment, if that's okay. Okay. So, hi, Andrew. You're asserting that Christianity has done positive things. And I hear that gets under Aron's skin because Aron knows a lot of facts about the things that Christianity has done that's very damaging and terrible. I mean, for instance, as far as death count on bodies on the planet, Christianity as a group has the highest number. So, whenever you think about something like that and then you come at it with a goodness, it's really difficult for people who empathize with the, 178 plus million body count problem. So yes, music and art and people's good feels and their family bonds and all that stuff. I understand that perhaps you're taking that and saying, this is good. And also, big picture, not just the good stuff, it comes with a really, really lot of bad things. So I'll let you talk. What do you want to say?
Thank you, Rebecca. You guys are still Americans, and America has literally committed genocide. So for you to say
they're awful. I would never be like, yay, America.
You guys are American. Yeah, Aron is an American citizen. So I would say it's hypocritical for him to criticize Christianity like that.
I'm trapped.
Why would it be hypocritical for? Why is it not hypocritical for you?
Where am I supposed to go? I'm alive.
Hold on a second.
I mean, I have to live somewhere.
You're a Christian. Christianity has committed genocide. So how hypocritical are you?
That's a choice.
Yeah. People commit genocide. Whatever idea they attribute to it, that's their fault. It's not I'm saying it's...
You're right. So if Christianity is their reason...
I want to tell you about the good that Christianity has done. I just want to
What about the evil that Christianity has done? What about the overwhelming evil?
Only the good. No crediting the evil, only the good.
I've talked about the evil. I talked about the evil it's done.
You know that guy.
I bet you can't even name some of the evils that it's done.
There's a guy on my street. This is an unrelated story. I'm just telling it for no reason right now. There's a guy on my street this week that got arrested for beating his wife, but he makes cupcakes for the homeless. Did you know that? So it's fine.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. I have something to say. Guy. So I'm going to draw a little picture.
I know this clown that used to do children's birthday parties. That's a nice thing, right? Only sometimes his clown suit had blood on it.
Okay, I have something to say. So let's say that this is the whole of Christianity. This is everything, right? And so they teach you this in DBT, that's dialectical behavioral therapy. Whenever somebody is all blacking or all whiting something, that's a red flag that they're not taking into consideration the whole picture. And so what they'll teach you is that you need to merge your black and your white together so that you can get a whole picture, so that you can think about it rationally. And so, like, what proportion of Christian history is positive and what is negative, right? And then you would be able to, I'm just going to draw it as half, right? It has a squiggle line, and we'll just say this is bad, okay? And the rest is good, okay? But I need to look at all of this.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
You might let her finish it before you tell her how good it is.
Well, I just mean being able to look and consider it. I feel like I have to look at the entire picture. I can't just look at the good. I have to consider it as a whole. And whenever I come out on the other side, I need to be making decisions that are taking everything into account and not just the positives. Although I will give that it has its positives, right? Because I'm looking at the whole, and I do recognize the side that you are seeing.
I would like to remind the host that Andrew at the beginning said that the good is the proof, the evidence of its validity was the word that Andrew used. I don't know if the two of you want to address that.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going to begin with. The horror, the abject horror, the fact that the entire belief system is based nothing on lies, on nothing but lies. The fact that it requires that it promises an impossible reward of a posthumous promise after death, right? And then it threatens a fate worse than death for anybody who questions that. All of that is bad. To say nothing of the fact that the Catholic Church had a trial in the 1600s to rule whether Native American indigenous people were human or whether they were soulless talking animals. That was an official trial that the Catholic Church had while they were slaughtering indigenous people en masse. But we can say that they found a lot of homes for the orphans that they caused, except that the homes for a lot of these orphans were in the ground in the secret places under their monasteries.
Wow. Okay. I just want to say, yeah, Aron did not address this. He is an American, and yet Americans committed genocide
Andrew.
against the Native Americans.
Andrew, when's the elections that we can go vote in to change Christianity?
And do you know anything about what is
chuckle of I just lost this whole fucking argument with one question? Is that what that chuckle was, Andrew? Maybe move on to something less incoherently stupid. Go on, buddy.
It was a good question.
Give them a challenge. Jesus Christ.
Maybe don't base your entire counter argument on whataboutism.
Yeah. The good that it has done, it propelled the civil rights movement in the United States. Martin Luther was led by Christian principles.
It retarded the civil rights movement. Justice. Excuse me. You said propelled. You said that backwards. It did not propel.
Anti-apartheid.
It impeded. It impedes, retards, or reverses progress in every application that it has ever touched.
Andrew. Andrew, I tell Aron what the rules of the show are. You don't. And you were trying to go past a point. You listed a point and you didn't stop for it to be rebutted. You decided you were going to list more. So you don't get to sit there and try and lecture Aron on the fucking... The only person who sets rules around these parts is my ass. And I can be the kind of asshole you were trying to be, but you can't. The fuck do you think this is?
Yeah, need I remind you that the Ku Klux Klan is an entirely strictly Christian organization? So Christianity did not propel the civil rights movement. It impeded. It bogged it down in the mud of religious conservatism. Let's remind you that Jefferson Davis used the Bible to argue in defense of slavery. There are Christian conservatives right now who argue for the reinstatement of slavery. That's how much Christianity has retarded, impeded, and bogged down the civil rights movement, has done the very opposite of everything that you say. I dare say you can't provide anything that Christianity does good that is not grotesquely outweighed by a portion of the evil that it constantly does.
Yeah, Christianity built Western civilization, and the idea,
which again is a problem.
It came from Christianity. The fact that we are all
it came from enslavement. It came from subjugation and genocide, and annihilating indigenous people, and subjugating indigenous people everywhere else. What's that?
Multiple countries did that. Multiple countries.
Yes, multiple Christian countries did that. Do you know why multiple Christian countries did that?
The Romans.
What is the commonality between multiple Christian countries that do the genocide and all the subjugation and all the exploitation of the indigenous people?
Andrew thinks that your statement of multiple Christian countries did that was wrong because the Romans weren't Christian. Did you know that the word multiple means all? Aron, I had no idea. We're having a linguistics meeting tonight just to make sure that we can update this for everyone who works at the show.
Jimmy, I just want to take his entire everything that he said so far as evidence to show this guy is not sincere. He is Captain Trollio, extremely obvious.
I think his brain just sucks.
Okay, he can't possibly sincerely believe what he's saying.
I'm going to have to go.
Serious conversation. You know what? I have a problem with you talking over me. So you know what? I'm going to make that stop.
I forgot to put his name tag up.
Yep, he's finally stopped. Thank you for being polite, polite enough to stop and let me speak after I hit the drop call button. Okay, so let's move on to the
Aron,
next
I got a question for you. Wait, hold on. Before you move on, so where would you put the dark? Like I said 50 just to be fair to the guy on the call, but where would you put it?
Where would 80? I put the dark 50?
97?
I can't see the picture.
You got to put a little more over your face there because of the, yeah.
Okay. There you go. With a ring light in the middle.
If you had a pie chart of good to bad, what percentage would be bad?
Let's get it. There we go.
Yeah, that's such a good thing because I mean I did a debate on this a few months ago where whether Christianity does more harm than good, and I'm thinking that everybody that comes out of Christianity, they don't ever say, you know what, I was a better person when I was a Christian. No, that never happens.
I find the question interesting too because like even whatever percentage you would, let's just say the good is 25%, right? Let's just say hypothetically it's 25. The remaining, that 25% is tainted because it's like the good is community. Well, community is not a Christian exclusive. And in fact, they usually weaponize that. So it's like community is great. And by the way, if you don't stay in line, they'll steal the community from you. They will mandate it away from you. Or, it's good gestures. It's access to medical care unless you start using condoms, in which case we'd like this whole continent to get AIDS if they want our medical outreach. So it's like, but that's a specific example for people who don't know of the Catholic Church's involvement in Africa, where they would mandate that you could get medical care if you didn't use condoms and you followed the church, basically.
So something else that I picked up along the way whenever, this whole dialectical behavioral therapy thing is there's a portion of shitty that people can tolerate before it becomes traumatic in a system. And that number is pretty high. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like 60%, I want to say, which is really high. But I think it would be easy to argue that the negatives of Christianity is above that 60% into the trauma zone. And that the people who go through it are in an abusive, traumatic relationship.
Yeah. So. It is kind of one of those things because, like, I don't want to do the black and white stuff that you were saying, but at the same time, I'm sitting here going, like, what is the what's the over under on genocide? What percentage of genocide is good? Because there are some of those things out there that just they are almost black and white. They're technically a shade of gray because presumably one of the people who died in the genocide was a wife beater, right? Like, so, maybe
the number is so high that the good can't be outweighed. Right. It can't win because it's the bad is so high. It can't actually be not a problem. Not a massive issue.
Yeah. I'm saying with like Christian religion and most religions, especially the Abrahamic ones, if we say that all bad, I'm going to go reverse of the normal. If all bad would be completely white and all good would be completely black, I think we're at best eggshell. I don't think we're in a gray area. I think we're eggshell. Anyway, you got some good calls lining up. I'll try and shut up. Andrew just gets my goat.
I can get it. Yeah. So let me see. I'm just going to jump into the next one in the queue. So we're talking about talking to Max in Texas, an agnostic atheist, who says, "What is the ultimate goal of the atheist movement, and can I take Aron's challenge regarding evolution versus creationism?" Max, welcome to the show.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, thank you. So you asked if you can take my challenge. What good would that do if you already accept that evolution is truer than biblical creationism?
Mostly for the learning experience. So a part of me transitioning away from Christianity was coming across your videos during the pandemic. So I acknowledge that, I still have a lot to learn. So maybe this will be a good learning experience.
Thank you very much. When I have these conversations with believers, I generally like to find out where they are already at the moment, what their objections to evolution is, what their misunderstanding might be. And of course, they're never able to tell you what their misunderstanding is. So I also have to find out what is it that you object to and why. And what I find that is with believers, that once they realize that there's any kind of, we both have a thing that we need to explain. And so I'm going to present my evidence to explain that thing. And now what is your evidence to explain that thing? They're going to say, well, my book of fables says so. And that's it. And that's all. And that's every answer to every question. But that's not going to do you any good. I mean, this kind of interaction wouldn't do you any good. If you're interested in watching that, though, anyway, I have a call like that scheduled for this Friday at 7 on my channel.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be cool then.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to be talking to somebody. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, please, you.
Okay, so my other question was, what is the ultimate goal of the atheist movement? Like, is the goal the complete eradication of religion in general, or is it just keeping religion off to one side? Like, yeah, people can believe what they want, but stay over there with that.
No, my personally, the only way I can answer this is personally. My biggest issue is when people believe something. Fine, if you say that you believe X, we don't have an argument. But I don't. I also don't care. All that matters to me is why you believe X, and that reason should imply that I believe it too. If you're not able to give me a reason why I should believe it too, then I just don't care. That's where we go back to. But the problem is that a substantial number of people have been trying to infiltrate, to elect evangelical Christians at every level of state and federal government. And there have been quite a few people in the Christian dominionists and nationalists and reconstructionists and so forth who have been saying that they want to take over this country and replace our representative democratic republic with an autocratic theocracy that enforces Levitical law. And so we're standing up for secularism, which means that atheism has to defend freedom of religion, freedom of, not just freedom from. We have to defend freedom of. You have a right to believe whatever you do for whatever reason makes sense to you, and you don't even have to explain. If you say you believe something, you don't have to defend it at all. You don't have to believe what you're told to believe, and you're allowed to not believe. That's what we want. True religious freedom. Which also means that you don't want to be lied to. Yes?
For me, my personal goal would be, I just want to state the truth, right? As I understand it, and then I'll listen to what you have to say. I'll listen to what other people have to say. I think the goal on some level is to push the truth out there and talk about it as well. I mean, like, obviously there's also the goals of, we're watching Aron Snake. Can't help. My heart beats just a little faster. I like them. But, as a personal goal, getting the truth out there, especially in the age of misinformation, in the age of whatever you were taught inside of your tiny bubble is the thing that you think is what is happening. And then you're going to go and try to push those bubble thoughts onto everyone around you and legislate that. No, that's a problem. And so, continuing to communicate with people who have only existed within a bubble, I think is very important, because bubble people getting power is, generally problematic.
Okay, I see then. So obviously there's a political component that has to come into play then.
I think you couldn't actually be an outspoken atheist without it delving into politics in any way. I don't know how you would I don't know how you would separate it.
Yeah. If it were so that Christianity in this country were not exclusively political, then we atheists wouldn't have to be political either.
Well, and also the topics just kind of overlap. I mean, like, whenever you're debating different topics, like, you're going to be debating political topics. It's going to be moments where people clash and have opinions, right? It's going to come down on those lines, just like everything else does.
Okay.
Max?
Well, I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I clearly have a lot more to learn. But I do enjoy the show, and Jimmy, go fuck yourself, buddy.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so I'm going to take a look at... all right, I have to answer this one because it addresses me directly. So, Aron, you are a theist. Neurodivergent people in atheism. Is there a connection? No, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong question because yours just moved. All right. Aron says, faith is the most dishonest position one can have. All right, give me one that's worse.
Honestly, as far as giving you one that's worse, I don't know that I actually could. But I was just curious if you could expound on why you believe that, or why you, I don't want to say believe, but why it is that you say that faith is a dishonest position, and if you wouldn't mind expounding on that, because the example that I have, or the example that I always think for myself, is that if I have faith, but I accept that it's faith, it's not provable. Like, I couldn't prove my faith to you, which is why I call it faith, almost like a gut feeling. Am I still being dishonest with that?
Abraham Lincoln said that it is an established maxim in morals that he who makes an assertion without knowing whether it is true or false is guilty of falsehood, and the accidental truth of the assertion does not justify or excuse him. So, asserting baseless speculation as if it was a matter of fact is dishonest. It's like making up your own statistics. If you can't show that the statistics you just cited are correct, if you can't show that they exist at all, you're just calling up something because it matches what you feel. That's called a lie, because you just stated it as a fact. Now, you can say that your opinion is, or that your suspicion is, your belief is. Those would be fine. But you expressed it as a fact. Because pretending to know things you don't know, or that no one even can know, that's lying too, if you're pretending to know that. So this is part of the problem that I have. When people tell me that, well, I know for the fact there's a God, except that you don't know it and it's not a fact. And there's not a God. So just all three ways, you're still wrong.
So yeah, so I can definitely accept. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you please.
Oh, I was going to say, I watched your videos on I can't remember the dude's name, but that preacher, he's in Dallas. He's got the white hair. So, but yeah, I remember that, where it's there was one correct worldview. It's the Christian worldview, all that stuff. So I definitely agree with you on that. Knowing for a fact that God exists, and specifically knowing for a provable fact that God exists, is definitely a position that I disagree with, because it's really impossible to know, to me. Like, you can't know. Now, like myself, I can have faith that God exists, or a gut feeling that God exists, but I accept the fact that I can't prove to you that God exists, right? So to me, my faith is not a dishonest position.
I would also have to throw in that your conviction does not qualify as knowledge. There have been many things that I've been absolutely certain about. And in my youth, in the naivety of youth, I would have said that I know this. I'm so convinced of it that I don't just believe this, I know it. But I've learned that some of the things I thought I knew, I didn't really know. I've also encountered things that I remembered incorrectly and been very confused when I saw the recording or whatever, and realized that, oh, that's not what they said at all. What was I thinking? And there's no way I can argue against it. I just have to admit, I remembered it incorrectly.
Yeah. So, but with your belief prior to being proven wrong, so with what you accepted, would you consider yourself having been dishonest at that point in time?
Yeah. Am I claiming to know something that is not demonstrably accurate? Knowledge is demonstrable, measurable, with testable accuracy. But if you can't show it, you don't know it.
Interesting.
I mean, you can know what your feelings are. I checked my gut, but that doesn't really have any basis in reality.
Yeah.
So, okay, no, I can definitely, so like I said before, so I can definitely understand where you guys are coming from. So I try to follow Aron Ra, Matt, and Dillahunty, the Atheist Experience previously, of course, Jimmy Snow. So I'm a fan of all of you guys. So I do enjoy the work that you guys are doing. So I'm sorry, I didn't expect to get through, so I'm a little flabbergasted that I did. But no, I appreciate your time. So, and you guys keep doing what you're doing. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you sincerely.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Aaron. So now we're going to be talking to where'd that go?
Did you just end the show instead of dropping the call in call-in studio?
How could I do that?
You hung up on. I'm fixing it. You hung up on. You hung up our call instead of the caller's call.
Oops.
I was wondering why I had to click that again.
Are you sure? Yes.
Are you sure you want to self-destruct and eradicate all life?
Absolutely, 100%. Thanks for asking twice.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now. You are connected as the host.
Just fix this because I'd just be sitting here on my thumbs.
Give it another second.
Okay. Rebecca, I'm going to continue. I'm going to pretend to be McConnell for a moment. So you're just going to take over.
You're good now.
Yep. Welcome back to the program. Aron was asked whether or not he wanted to end the program, and he said yes twice. Would you like to end that? Absolutely.
Yeah, things along that nature. Okay, so now we have the next question. I have an agnostic atheist one. That one. Let me see. We have no theist. I got a theist here. No, that was a terminated call. Drat. We had some really good terminated calls.
Well, you didn't even ask the last theist why they believe in God, but that was the last call. I would just take Tim or Jasmine is now one that just called back in. Those are the two I've got on my end.
All right, I'm going to take Jasmine first. Jasmine, you're on SkepTalk. How you doing?
Hello. Good, thank you.
Hello.
Want to discuss, there seems to be some correlation between autism and atheism. I'm wondering, since at least two of you are on spectrum, what your opinions are on that.
Am I one of those two?
I think she meant me because I have autism.
I don't know. Are you?
I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it depends on which statistics you look at, but no matter what, you're always going to see that there's a higher prevalence of atheism in the autistic community. And so sometimes those numbers will be like 10% more likely to be atheist and then 10% more likely to just make their own thing up. And so it's like 20% less likely to be Christian than the average. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. So did you have a specific question? I can't remember. Definitely the answer is yes, it is more highly prevalent. And I can tell you my thoughts on why.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Okay. Okay. So for me personally, whenever I I have autism, and so like I live inside of my imagination quite a bit. I'm inside of my head. I'm kind of trapped in my head. There's a disconnect between my body and the rest of the universe. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that causes a permanent impairment in my proprioception, and so like I'm experiencing things a little bit differently. And so inside of that imagination, what I'll end up doing is I like to take things to the limit and then say, what happens here? What happens at the end? What happens if I consider all of those points? What if I consider everything I've ever been told ever and then answer questions based on that, right? Because my memory is photographic and, so like I sit there and play with these shapes inside of my mind, as they go along. And whenever there's like a discordant shape, it's like, what is that? What is that? I want to know what that is. And I want to go toward it and learn more about it. And, also, right. So this is where special interests come in. And so for me, I did end up with a special interest in religion specifically, mostly because I was raised in it. And then I was a math major and I was like, okay, well, but this isn't answering any question that I have. I'm really worried about being a good person. And I don't know if like my religion is the one for me. I was Catholic. And so there's saints. And I was like, well, I don't want to play to a middleman. That kind of seems off. And so I started to go down which religion is correct? And so that just led me to considering all kinds of religions. And at some point I was like, okay, they're all good. They're all the religions are good. And then it came to a point where I was like, okay, hold on. What are they actually? They're stories made by men. Men, but I'll say humans, even though it really was men. Stories made by humans. And do I really want to consider everything through really ancient texts where things are different? We've evolved to some point. We have a lot more knowledge now. I want to take all that into account as well, while also considering all of these religions. And on the other side, I was like, you know what? I think that it's actually more destructive to have a middle thing I'm bouncing stuff off of. It's the same reason I walked away in the first place from the Saints. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. I don't really feel like I'm getting what I need out of this. And so to get to a point where I was more comfortable with my ability to make a moral decision inside of a moment, instead of checking a text and then coming back, I want to be able to look at where I am with the people who I'm with and consider what's going on and consider everything that I've ever been told and consider all the stories that I have to be able to understand a single moment and then make a decision in that moment that I can live with. And the whole, why don't I check this ancient text that has a lot of problems? That became something I really didn't feel was helpful. Even though I do still have all of those different texts inside of my head that I'm using as part of, other books and things that people have told me and information that I take from all the other resources as well. So I feel like probably my experience is one that will look a little differently, but it'll come out kind of similarly on the other side. Is as you start to take in information and you're like, wait a minute, I have questions, then you end up getting to where you come out atheist on the other side. And I think that's a common thing that happens within the autistic community. Hey, Jimmy, did you want to weigh in on this as the other spectrum person?
We're just smarter than everybody else. I'm just kidding. My answer is pretty simply that I've got the sort of stereotypical innate sense of justice, not innate, strong sense of justice, and I need to know the whys and I need the explanations. I think autistic people are much more comfortable with no answer or places that say I don't know than made up answers or wrong answers. I think that's something that a lot of neurotypical people would seem. This might be a bit anecdotal, but it seems through observation that a lot of neurotypical people are more okay with filling in.
Okay, answers. Jasmine and Jimmy are both talking. Hey, Jasmine,
I was going mad.
Asked Jimmy.
Can no one hear me?
Huh?
I thought I was going mad. I couldn't understand how are these two people just still talking?
I had to take my headphones off because at the mic I'm at, I hear myself when I'm at the downstairs mic, so that was what was happening. I was waiting till I was done on my point.
Evenly speaking, and I couldn't catch either of you.
Word. We're just better. I'll just leave it at that.
I'll leave. How about Jasmine? What were you saying? Jasmine, you were saying something, theory of mind. That's the only thing I caught at all.
Well, I don't believe in mind because it's just a theory.
Anyway, the thought is that we can't connect to a personal God like neurotypicals can. So it's the whole theory of mind that we can't imagine a personal God like other people can.
Jasmine, can you hear me now?
I mean, I can imagine it. I can imagine a lot of things, but there are different types of autism. There's different phenotypes. I am the female phenotype, and we are associated with a highly active imagination as opposed to like an absence of imagination. And there's a really large spectrum as far as all of that goes. And so I think that while that could be true for some people, I have a very easy time imagining, but it's just my imagination, and it feels like my imagination.
Jasmine, now that you can hear me, the short version of what I was saying was just that I think autistic people are more comfortable with I don't knows and no answers when that's appropriate, whereas it seems a lot of other people are more accepting of the wrong answer or an emotionally asserted answer when something is uncomfortably left empty. So when somebody asks something like, why does the universe exist? We're fine with if the current best answer is we don't know, whereas other people seem to be more drawn to just filling that with something because it's uncomfortable to leave it open.
Well, then because like I said, as a female phenotype autistic person, I'll go past that. I'll be like, why does it exist? Oh, let me think of all kinds of ways in which this could have happened, right? And it'll go to the point where I'm like, maybe there's a million universes. I don't know. Maybe there's infinite universes. What kind of space is the universe in and expanding inside of? I don't know. I want to know, right? And then I'll just make stuff up and have fun with it, And so, but that also pushes me outside of the realm of things, because I'll say like, oh, is it really 13 billion years old? What if it's like infinite and we don't even know because it's like expanding and contracting, and maybe this isn't the only one? What if I'm just inside of a marble of some other, like, I don't know. I like to just play with it. And so it's hard to not be able to do that for me. And so, yeah.
I wasn't excluding that as something as I enjoy too. Mind experiments are fun. It's just a matter of, I'm not going to say, wouldn't it be interesting if we're expanding and then collapsing, expanding, collapsing? Now I believe that is what happened, because that seems, because if I was going to take something like that, I'd totally be a believer in like simulation theory and like the whole world is a VR video game and we forgot that we got into. We're basically playing Roy from Rick and Morty. That would be the one I'd go with, but I don't believe that. It's just fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I'm comfortable with the I don't know if I'm going to sit there and be like, I don't, whatever, like silly stories and nonsense, It's absurdism at some point.
Jasmine, tell the host why you believe in God.
I think, I'm honestly emotionally attached. I enjoy the comfort. I honestly did try to deconvert, but I found it not for me. So I'm emotionally attached to the idea of a God, even if I'm not sure if there is one.
I find it difficult to, I can't think like that. There's lots of things I would like to believe, and believers tell me all the time that I get to choose to believe whatever I want to, but I can't believe that I'm a Jedi. I can't believe that I'm rich, or that I can fly, or that I'm still 23. I just can't believe all these things.
No matter how hard I believe it, I'm not going to get laid in July. It's just not going to happen.
So I can speak from a point where for my Catholic Christian Development class, CCD, as the Catholics call it, I was voted most likely to be a nun, as in N-U-N and not the N-O-N-E that I've forgotten. But I was emotionally attached. Yes, at the time. I guess so. So I was also emotionally attached. I think it felt like fear. I was just scared. And anytime that I went and I touched that with a stick, it was like, ugh. That's very scary. And I would even have nightmares, and it was scary to get past the nightmares. And, you have to, it takes a certain amount of bravery, I think, to say, I trust that on the other side, I will get past the fear, and I will get past the worries, and I will get past the nightmares. And that's what I did. I decided, look, I don't care whether or not I'm uncomfortable. I care more whether or not things line up for me as far as what I think is true and not true. And I'm okay with being uncomfortable. But on the other side, I feel like I've come to a point where I actually feel way more comfortable than I did before, when I was living in constant fear. So I don't know. For me, I came from an emotionally attached place, and I had to let go. And I feel like I actually came to a better place on the other side. So.
Yeah, I used to live in constant fear, but then I stopped watching Fox News.
That's entertainment up here.
Okay. All right, well, have we satisfactorily answered that? I don't have any other callers lined up, I'm noticing.
Jasmine, I wonder, Jasmine, do you have... You said you've been sitting with these and thinking about these things. So while you have these two phenomenal hosts in front of you, do you want to ask them some questions about, you're a believer because you're emotionally attached. So that means that you're having difficulty, it sounds like, handling certain ideas that they're sort of scary ideas. Why not ask these two, like, Aron, how do you deal with death? Or Jasmine, how do you deal with, I know Jasmine's a mother. How do you deal with apprehensions about motherhood? Like, you've got the two, whatever the apprehensions you're experiencing are. You've got these two here. You could ask them and explore that with them if you like.
Sure. Well, I kind of like the idea of having a divine plan, if you will, like that there's no that I'm meant for something, even if I don't know what that something is. And
I think I would rather make that my choice.
You don't have to worry as much.
I never liked the divine plan. I never liked the meaning of life either. It always sounded like a stupid question to me. The first time somebody asked me when I was a child, what is the meaning of life? I'm like, is there a punchline coming at this? Because it doesn't make any sense. It's like when the fortune tellers would throw down the tea leaves or the chicken bones or whatever, and then they would read what they mean. It doesn't mean anything. It's completely random sort of gibberish that you're interpreting for entertainment value. Will you shut up?
Okay, so Jasmine, I'll go ahead and talk about how I have handled a similar issue. So whenever it comes to a plan or feeling like there's a purpose or feeling like there's meaning, I come at it as I am a human being. I'm trapped as a human being. I don't have a choice. I'm not a rock. I have only a finite number of years that I'm here. And so, but because of that, right, I am essentially this being trapped in a meat suit, surrounded by pain all of the time. And so I need to do something with that, right? I'm trapped inside of this meat suit until I'm not, right? At some point, I guess I'll go back to being atoms that aren't trapped inside of this pain-filled meat suit. But at this time, what am I going to do with that? And for me, I like to alleviate pain. I like to alleviate my pain. I like to alleviate the pain of others. I like to generally lessen it so that we only have to face the garbage that we have to face as human beings, like cancer or like death or like breaking your arm or, stubbing your toe or whatever, because obviously you're going to still have those things happening. But as far as like, what is my purpose? Well, you know what? Around me, I like to lessen what the BS that we're going through, right? As a human being trapped inside of this meat suit, right? I'm stuck like this. I don't have a choice. And so what am I going to do at that time? And for me, my answer to myself, like, what is my purpose? And it would be to lessen the pain level for both myself and for those around me. And so I don't know. It feels good. It's fulfilling. It suits that same feeling that I feel like you're talking about, like that feeling of fulfillment of like, yes, this is me. This is what I'm here to do, right? Except for it wasn't cosmic. It's just that I'm trapped in a meat suit surrounded by pain, and so is everybody around me, and we're all going to die, like, right? So I got to do something.
I prefer to heed the words of my sensei, Carl Sagan, who said, be the meat suit. You are the meat suit.
Yep, that's the one.
And I think we've killed Jasmine. Indeed, she seems to be gone. Okay, Jimmy, I'm going to have to drop this call. What do you think?
Do whatever your heart tells you.
All right, it's gone. All right, so now, talking with Jose from Honduras. On the question of, is evolution a random process? Jose, explain your question, please.
So, as I understand evolution, it has some processes that are random, like mutations and genetic drift. So I was wondering, how big is the role of randomness in evolution, since some creationists pretend like the biodiversity that we see today came from evolution. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Evolution is the only explanation of biodiversity. And I don't just mean the only scientific explanation. I mean the only one, period.
Yeah,
so is it random, though? So random, it depends on what your definition is. So believers, when they explain, when I can tell by the context that something is either random or it's predetermined. It's for a purpose. So if it wasn't intentional, it's random, according to them. But, strangely, if any of them were to win the lottery, which is by design the most random thing possible, the way the balls fall in the air and all, everything that they do about that is meant to be as random as possible. Yet, if anybody won the lottery, they would say that, they would thank God, because God apparently even controls random things. But for whatever reason, the only random thing he can't control is evolution. For whatever reason, I don't really understand. Mutations are random, but I've used the term that the way natural selection works, it eliminates deleterious mutations rather quickly, and you can have the neutral mutations, which are the most common, are the ones that produce the most biodiversity, where there's not necessarily a selective factor, and then in those instances where you have beneficial mutations that will ultimately be selected for and then will increase, through population genetics, then it becomes deterministic. Now, some philosophers will say that deterministic is the wrong term, but this is the only one that I know of to apply for that some improvement is being made, that beings that exist in the water will become better adapted to that environment over time.
So as somebody with a genetic mutation, I have to think about these kinds of things all the time, sort of like, is there any benefit to the fact that I am in horrific pain? And like, see, I'll show you my webby skin, right? I have this genetic mutation that makes me have all this webby weird stuff going on, and then I can bend myself into all kinds of weird shapes and do all this stuff. But in the end, I'm in horrific pain and I have a lot of problems with all of my organs and, all these other things going on. And so for me, I look at that and I'm like,
kicked out of Dr. Xavier's school.
I do have some version of superpowers. It's through the autism, I think. I'm one of those people where you say like a math problem and I say the answer and I'm not exactly sure how I got the right answer, but I have it and I know what it is. But right, so there's some things that come along, but is this genetic mutation that evolution has produced within me going to move forward? I can't have as many babies because my body breaks. So I'm going to be at least out babied by people who don't have the same issues. And then once people, like, we didn't even have the term Ehlers-Danlos syndrome until not too long ago. And then I wouldn't have been caught by the criteria until 2017's criteria came out. And so over time, will EDS people, after knowing what the problems are with pregnancy, will they be like, I choose not to? I don't know the answer, but I do know that I think it starts randomly. And then what works moves forward, and what doesn't work gets kind of left behind.
So I have a friend.
Might be some other small, like, species level, like there's this person who has this genetic mutation and that's their progeny, and it's like how many proportion of the society kind of thing, right?
I have a friend who has a very interesting mutation in that he has a second aorta, so he could have a heart attack that would kill anybody else, but he'll live through it. And where this becomes a question of evolution is that it enables his survivability beyond the normal reproductive age, but it doesn't have any impact on his reproduction. So as an evolutionary question, it's survival only so long as you reproduce. And then, of course, it's the amount that you reproduce. But then if he doesn't have kids, or if he has fewer kids than people who are without this mutation, then that beneficial mutation will not get carried on. Because evolution doesn't care how long you live after you reproduce, which is another reason that we should wait to have kids later. Because the later you have kids, the more evolution will improve your longevity. So that in as few as 80 generations, we can increase human lifespan simply by waiting until we're 25 to have kids instead of having them at like 15, as is so commonly the case now.
Okay, so I had another question. And
okay.
Like some creationists say that the fossils that we have found for human evolution are like fully ape-like or fully human. So, are there any examples of any transitional forms like between?
Only myriad of them, only dozens. But you have to get into the definitions. What does fully human mean? What does fully ape mean? Because every human is fully ape. Just like every duck is fully bird, every mallard is fully duck, and every bird is fully dinosaur.
Yeah. So, what are the traits that we see in the fossils that makes us think that we evolved from them?
I did a rather long series on this, on the systematic classification of life. If you want to jump up to episode 42 and watch from then on. But all of the diagnostic characteristics, if you look at all of the diagnostic characteristics for what is a primate, if you want to, because some people argue that I am not a primate. Well, here are the traits. You have opposable thumbs. That's one of them. This long ordeal, color vision, and that sort of thing. You have all of these characteristics. If you describe all of the characteristics of one particular subset of primates, you've got the strepsirrhines and the haplorhines. So the haplorhines are the ones with the dry noses. So the strepsirrhines are the ones that have wet noses, like dogs. We have dry noses, so that puts us in the haplorhines. So then you have the anthropoids. You can either be a lemur or you can be a haplorhine, or excuse me, a lemur or an anthropoid. Anthropoid also simiiform. Either word means humanoid or means monkey. It's the monkey group. So if you describe all monkeys, what the characteristics are that apply to all monkeys without making special exceptions for certain ones, you describe people. And then if you go to a particular subset of that, if you describe all the characteristics that identify an old world monkey particularly, like the diminished or absent tail, for example, you describe people. The downward turned noses. Our nostrils are not splayed this way like on platyrrhines, New World monkeys. They're pointed down. That's the Old World monkey. And then if you describe all of the diagnostic characteristics of a subset of the Old World monkeys, that being apes, you again describe people. The bipedality, the propensity for bipedality, the full arc of brachiation. These are ape traits. These are things that other monkeys cannot do. These are only apes can do that. Then if you describe the subset of apes that are called the great apes, all of the diagnostic characteristics for them, the type of dentition that all of us have, the type of ears that we have, the fingerprints, the flat fingernails, the number of hair follicles that we all have, 2 pectoral mammae, all of that, you describe people. So we are primates, we are monkeys, we are apes. And then we have to decide, going the other way, which of these apes qualify as human? Well, now we have to have diagnostic characteristics for human. And all of those traits would apply to the genus Homo, and should, because of, there was some paraphily going on in the early 20th century when they were making up some of these cladograms that they should probably be corrected. But Kenyanthropus bladiops, arguably human. Australopiths are homoene, meaning that they're on the verge of being human. So there's an awful long discussion we can have about that. There's dozens of intermediate species that fall into this category that you were asking about.
Yes. Okay. So our ancestors walked on their knuckles, right?
No. Common misconception. Okay. At the split between humans, where our ancestors went one way and then other people became chimpanzees or became gorillas, chimpanzees and gorillas resorted to knuckle walking. Orangutans didn't. They did their own thing. Originally, when we come down from the hylobatids and the gibbons, the lesser apes in this transitional period, there was something called the dryopiths. And dryopiths were like the older form, where they would walk on their whole hands, or they just became fully bipedal, as was common. There were several dryopith species that were fully bipedal. And then some of the later apes, like orangutans, started doing this fist walking thing. And then gorillas and chimpanzees both went to this knuckle walking thing. But our ancestors evidently never did. We never walked on our knuckles. This is just a common misconception. We were bipedal from the day we came out of the trees. We were bipedal in the trees.
All right. So, in the fossil record, some species appear to be unchanged for a long period of time. So, some creationists argue that
what species were unchanged?
That God created.
What species were unchanged for long periods of time?
Like the crocodile or something?
I'm sorry?
I said like the crocodile or something?
No, I mean, like species in the fossil record, some appear like in a stationary form, like long periods of time. Give me an example. Then, no, I can't think of any examples right now. But
Jose, are you reading?
No.
It sure sounds like you're reading, because you then also repeated the exact same phrasing when asked to clarify. There's something just weird about this call. So do you want to get around to the central question, what you're trying to do?
No,
do you understand and accept that we are apes?
Well,
you understand and accept that we are apes?
Yes, I understand.
You go. Okay,
all right. I want to ask if you were punctuated equilibrium. So
what?
You explain if you were a punctuated equilibrium.
Something equilibrium. I didn't hear all the whole question. Did anybody pick up that whole question?
So I was going to ask about the theory of. So I was going to ask about the theory of punctuated equilibrium.
Punctuated equilibrium. What about it?
No, so I was going to ask if you could explain it to me.
Okay. So what ends up happening is you have, as Stephen Jay Gould was talking about, there will be certain stages that in the interim of the intermediacy, you're going to be less efficient in these two environments than you are in the subsequent form. So there will be fewer examples from that intermediate form, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And some people have accused this of being an argument against gradualism, that it's always slow changes. But even in the cases of punctuated equilibrium, we're still talking about thousands of generations, so it is still gradualism, as gradualism was popularly defined. So there's never a contradiction of gradualism, ever. But when you get into something like Acanthostega, for example, where you're making this intermediate stage from the water to the land, when subsequent forms, because you're going to what is originally this tentative thing that's waddling onto land, something else will become a little bit more efficient, a little bit more full-on amniote. They're better adapted to being on the land. They will move a little bit faster, be a little bit more efficient in their lifestyle and that sort of thing than the original form was, which means that the original form will die out more quickly or sooner than these subsequent forms will. And so you're going to find more of the subsequent forms, more biodiversity, more different forms of the subsequent daughter shapes. You're going to find more of those in the fossil record than you did the intermediate, the one that could barely walk on land, still had lungs, but wasn't that efficient in the water for these reasons. That it's not efficient in either place. It's the jack of all trades. And then it's the ones that become more specialized, at least to the land environment, that proliferate later. This was the concept that was described as punctuated equilibrium.
Okay, so that was all.
Yeah. Shut up. Sorry, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the polar bear behind me.
Okay. So, no, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jose.
All right, do we have it? Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and let this call go, Jose, and we will talk to... Let's see. Did that drop?
I took care of it so you wouldn't drop our call.
Thank you. All right, Pyro from California. Go ahead and explain your question, please.
Okay, so I wrote it down to make it a little more clear. I know the screener, I wasn't very articulate, but I was wondering what a good rebuttal or question is for when someone says that they've experienced or witnessed like demon possession or an exorcism. Like, I don't even know what to say to that, you know?
Yeah, I tell you what, all these witnesses are so questionable that if there were cell phones in Jesus's day, Christianity would never have existed.
Sure.
Right.
You know, I have been around people. They haven't specifically said demon possession. They haven't specifically said the ones that you said, but they have said things that didn't line up with what I could understand as reality. And you know, a lot of times those things have come out and sound like symptoms to me. They're definitely like they're ticking boxes as they go along, especially as an autistic person and a female phenotype autistic person. I'm interested in looking at psychology. And so I've learned a lot of different things from the DSM-5. And so whenever I'm listening to someone talk, a lot of the times these kinds of people who are saying these kinds of things are ticking boxes as they go along. And I'm like, okay, so we're looking at maybe, schizotypal or maybe schizophrenia, because there's psychosis that's related to bipolar can have a psychosis. And so for me, I typically hear that they are processing an experience the best way that they know how, and that they don't have the language from the, psychology perspective, and instead they're coming at it via religion. And then that's what it sounds like for me. And so what do I do whenever I'm talking to somebody who's experienced psychosis and they very much believe themselves? I once had somebody who was telling me that, people were going to murder them. They were telling them that all the time. They were always inside their head. No matter where they went, they would hear voices everywhere. And they knew that those people were threatening them. And they really believed that those people were real. And so what do I do with that? And so I just empathize.
I know a schizophrenic with exactly that problem.
Yeah. And so for me, I was just like, that sounds horrible. That just sounds so horrible. I can't even imagine what it would be like to go through that. Right. And I stuck to that because if I'm going to go through and just say, you know what, I think you might be schizophrenic. And because this person did not know. Definitely. And they were not coming at it from that perspective at all. And I would just be another voice who was part of it. Right. And so for me, what I ended up doing was just empathizing with the fact that that must be miserable. If this person's experienced demon possession and that's what they believe about their life, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Oh my God, listen to me. But still, I just go with empathy. That sounds horrible. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have gone through what you're saying.
And to hear the other side of this. To hear the other side of this, I did a video a year or so ago about a Catholic priest that I was listening to brag about all of the exorcisms that he has done. And when he's talking about the way that these people behave and the things that they say and do and everything, I'm like, these are undiagnosed people that need mental help. And like she was just saying, I mean, sometimes it's kind of obvious what the condition is, but we are not medical professionals in psychiatry or anything. But neither is the fucking priest who is exacerbating this terribly. He's feeding into a delusion that already exists. It's already been culturally ingrained. This person, the people have very often they don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to resist what is being culturally imposed upon them by their authority figures. Now makes it even worse. And they're being told all of this nonsense that we can prove is nonsense, and it's actually hurting these people. So this guy is bragging how he's helping people when really he's hurting everyone, and he's a complete dipshit and needs to get kicked in the head out of this business.
Yeah, like I actually had something like when I was younger, because I'm queer. And so I was told a lot of that being queer or anything like that was of the devil and that you were possessed. So, like, having this argument with this person who's like, oh, demon possession is real, and my friend was possessed, and they prayed for her, and she was foaming at the mouth, and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, for a long time, I believed I was possessed by a demon, and, like, I tried to harm other people just from that belief. So, even though it wasn't real, so my point was, like, people will behave the way they think they're supposed to in that context. If you tell someone enough times that their issue is because of some evil entity that is has attached themselves, and this is what that looks like, then of course when they go up to the preacher who's also reinforcing these ideologies and they behave in this weird way, they're screaming and they're yelling or they're running around, rolling on the ground, they, even if it's not conscious, they're just behaving in ways that they know is what people are looking for. And
yes.
So when they're all good afterwards, it's not that anything was fixed. It's all like, it's all in your head, really. And like, I don't know how to explain that without like them being like, oh, you know, whatever. It's not everyone has a mental illness who thinks they're, you know, possessed by demons. And like, that's not really what I'm saying, but you know, like,
yep, I get it.
There's obviously some issues here that are not being resolved that have people behaving in this way. That's not, you know, typical of a person.
Just imagine that the Catholic Church went for thousands of years without knowing anything about psychiatry. And when they started coming out with psychiatrists, when psychiatry became a study, of course, it was dominated by atheists, because there's an obvious problem here. When the Catholic Church wants to exorcise everybody who needs to be medicated.
Right, yeah. I hear a lot of that too. Like, oh, you don't need medication. You just need to get rid of the demon that's attached to your life that's giving you anxiety. Like, I feel like I would know if there was somebody else in my body. I don't know. Like, that sounds silly. Like, if it's a chemical imbalance in my brain, then it's my brain. That's not the devil. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm down with it. So did we address that adequately, Pyro?
I guess, like, I think that, like, I forgot what the other person is with you, Aron. Sorry, I forgot your name.
I'm Rebecca.
Yeah, like what you were saying about like just giving empathy, I think is probably like the best I can do at this point, because like they're just not wanting to see, and they kind of see me in the same way, like, well, you don't want to believe, so it doesn't make sense to you, and God works in mysterious ways and stuff like that. And so I just have to be like, yeah, like, that sounds terrible for your friend. I'm glad she's better now. Like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing else for me to say, I guess.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, you can argue with the guy, but if it's not going anywhere, like in the end, it's just like, well, that sounds really horrible for your friend, you know, and if she's doing better, then yay, you know.
Yeah,
you can't,
exactly.
you
like,
know.
I was hoping to, like, maybe have something to, like, say to them to, I don't know, like, make them think. Like, it feels like they're not thinking. They're just, this is what I believe. This kind of matches up with what I believe. So it's right. Even if there are other things that it could possibly be, it's not those things. It couldn't possibly be those things. Like, why are you not open to any other option except it's demons? Like, I don't know how to combat that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I mentioned having a schizophrenic friend who would there doesn't seem to be any logic that would work. He thought everybody was a ventriloquist. He thought that if we moved to Asia, that maybe everybody in Asia wouldn't be ventriloquists. He thought that it was an American thing. And he thought that everybody was throwing their voices at him, trying to be punks. Everybody like in North America is, as soon as they see him, or as soon as somehow they're throwing their voice at him. He thought that the lady working in some restaurant down the street who couldn't even see him, it's nighttime, she's in a lit up room beside glass, he's in the dark outside down the street in his house. How the hell is she going to know that he's even there? But he thinks she's throwing her voice at him. I have to explain, how could you hear her, even if she had the ability to be a ventriloquist, to throw her voice without you seeing her lips move? She's 6 houses down the street. How could she do that and you hear her?
And it's going to be, he does hear her because his brain has a voice inside and it has words that it says and it's in her voice. And so all he can do is state that. And then, it doesn't have to line up with reality, because it can't line up with reality. There's things going on that are different there, and maybe medications could help schizophrenics. Sometimes it doesn't work very well. And so there's ways, but in the end, I just have to, my heart breaks. I hear that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds torturous. I can't even imagine if that's my life and I had somebody from 6 houses down and their voice was inside my head. And that's all I could say is that lady from 6 houses down's voice is inside my head. And that's what came out of my mouth. And I was being honest. Ooh, I can't, I'm glad I don't have to cope with that.
Yeah,
like that's not my set of circumstances.
We're driving down the street. We're not on the street. We're driving down the freeway in the city. I'm driving what is effectively a monster truck. I've got way oversized mud tires. I've got headers in the engine. The thing is loud. It's loud, so loud inside that we have to yell at each other in the cab. Right now, we're going down the freeway at night. You can't see into somebody's car and see what they look like at night. He's very black anyway, so I damn sure know they can't see him looking into my car. But he's thinking that the car going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour at night is throwing their voice at him with all the windows raised because it's cold weather. Like, how is this even? You understand? It's not even. They could roll the window down and scream at you. You still wouldn't be able to hear them. But for whatever reason, rationality does not work on some mental conditions. But then neither does exorcism.
Yeah, I don't understand that part of it. I think it's been fixed because the preacher got them in the head and said some words, like, so then all your anxiety, all the stress that you've been through just goes away, but it doesn't. But they'll say that it did when it, like, obviously you're still stressed out, but you're going to pretend that you're fine because that's what you've been trained to do, basically.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can go any further with this. Have you had anything else?
No, that was it. I really appreciate the conversation, though. You guys are great.
All right, thank you much. I've got one more call, and we've got like 10 minutes, so I'm going to jump to this next one. All right, thank you, Pyro.
Sure.
All right, so can I pull up? No, this one might not be available to me for anymore. Nope, it has dropped off. Drat. I thought I could answer this call. What did we do this weekend?
Satanist rally. Yeah, sure.
Tell everybody what we did this weekend.
All right. Well, there was a Christian nationalist singer who is going by all of the capitals and said that he was coming out to Washington. And so the Heretic House pulled a permit and had a protest. We weren't the counter protest because we pulled our permit first. So technically they were the counter protest. But so we were they're protesting white nationalism, and it went well. There were a lot of different things that happened. There was definitely a guy who stood in the middle of our protest. Oh, I froze for a second. there was a guy who stood in the middle of our protest holding an Alex Jones flag and spinning around in a circle, bothering us. And then the cops came and were like, hey, sir, you're going to have to move on. And he was pretty upset about it. His face was like, what? Like, I have a constitutional right to be here kind of looking face. I was far enough away that I didn't actually hear what he said. But the look on his face was definitely like, what? I'm not leaving. And then the cops were like, yeah, so you're going to have to. They have a permit. So, like, you got to move on, bud. This is their space. This is their thing. And then he got escorted away. And then some government officials came out and were like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. You're bothering these people. And he definitely looked very disappointed to find out that he was the problem. And then, yeah, there were several other things that happened. Do you want to talk about them? I can keep talking.
No, please do. Please, I want to hear your perspective on it.
Okay, so there were people who would stop by, the Christians, as they walk by to go to their, thing, or even just random people who were walking by and didn't actually know that concert was going on, would come by, and then they would stop for a bit and watch. And then sometimes they'd jeer and snicker to each other, or they'd say kind of like comments or something. I guess somebody might have made some offhanded, bothersome comment at some point to somebody, and they got into a talk. They were talking. But at some point, there was a performance, a consensual performance by two people who had espoused basically pacifism at the beginning, where they were like, we're not going to go over there. We're not going to punch people. We're going to be over here talking about our views, and we're allowed to do that. And so, right, so there was definitely an espousement of like nonviolence, followed by a presentation where Han Solo was using a staple gun to staple pages of the Bible onto Rowan. How do you say the last name? Astra? Rowan Astra? I think that's how Astra. Okay. And so the Christians' faces, though, I enjoyed watching that because they went from like sneer, jicker, and then they were like they were just horrified. They took it all kinds of different ways. They even got the attention of the actual singer who shared it to his Twitter, which I thought was pretty funny. They got him to share Han Solo stapling pages to Rowan, and then he said, these are the people who have threatened my family. These are the people who threaten death threats to my family. It's just like, these are exactly the opposite of those people, because one, they just espoused pacifism about how they're not even going to go over there and talk to you at all, and two, there was a huge consensual discussion. Like, I want him to do this. I will do that, right? They both agreed.
Can we talk for a moment just about how much the evangelicals like to lie? So this guy says that the pacifists who never threatened anybody were the ones that threatened him and his children. I think lawyers should get involved in that because
I really thought that was not okay.
Yeah, that was not okay.
We have video of their speech.
To accuse somebody of having made death threats against you you don't have any evidence of it. You have evidence against it, but more importantly in this case, there's no evidence for that, so you can't make such a false allegation. When the guy said that the 20 Satanists had left and there are 40 of us still there, what kind of a bullshit story is that? But this is the trivial things. One of the ones that gets me is the same guy showed up to SatanCon in Boston a couple months back and claimed to have converted 98 Satanists. Confirmed. His website says confirmed, except that he can't come up with name one.
Do you remember a guy who used to make the rounds in the YouTube world and Twitter argument world who would go by the name Master Apologists, Aron?
No, I don't remember this guy.
Oh, because he'd go around and he'd pick fights with people, and then he would say like talk about how scared the atheists were, and then his Twitter bio had something in it like 400 debate victories to 0. He was 400-0 on all of his debate victories. It was meanwhile he did try to call into some of the call-in shows and just got his fucking ass handed to him too. But anyway, just reminded me of that.
So I'm just impressed with how much. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that the way that he would get away with what he said on Twitter is that he said, this is the same type of person. Now, I think it's arguable to say there's no way that type of person could possibly do that.
And what type of person would that be? A carbon-based life form, or?
In America, the standard for defamation, though, if you wanted to go after him, you can't just go after and say, he's lying and he knows he's lying. There are these standards of for defamation, proof that he's doing some kind of measurable damage to reputation as well as your financial status or your safety, that he's inciting people to violence would have to be it's almost impossible. And then you have to prove that he knows he's lying when he says that. Even in this scenario, you don't actually know that he doesn't actually think you all want to kill him, because these fucking idiots.
So I can just accuse anybody of whatever I want. And as long as there's a chance that it's possibly true, that I'm okay.
Not even that it's possibly
you
true.
Have to believe it. You believe it.
No, you don't even have to believe it. No, it just has to be that no one can prove that you don't believe it. Right?
Yep, that's what it means. I can just accuse anybody of anything I want,
and as public figures go, the threshold is way, way higher. I have had people completely lie about me in ways that are measurable, and in some instances was told you can't do anything. In other instances was told you can do stuff, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. And the person who is doing this damage to you, there's nothing for you to win off of them. And so it's the whole system doesn't actually freedom of
speech. It's a capitalistic system.
Yeah, it's overcorrected for, and anybody can basically just fucking lie as they like, which, hence religion is so popular and pervasive.
So I understand that this now is the time to read our super chats. Rebecca, do you want to do the
hint?
Sure.
Is it that we're 3 minutes to when the show was supposed to end and the purple thing popped up? I don't know what you're talking about.
Because I'm astute that way.
Okay, so $5 from Northern Spike. Money to build an atheist holy land. Where would that be, Aron?
I think it'd be an unholy land.
The unholy land. The Satan land.
Also, why are you asking Aron? I think we established I'm in charge here. I tease. But I would put the unholy land. I'm not kidding. I'd put it in Utah. That's the best place to put it. Utah is so beautiful, and it's being fucking ruined as the Mormon holy land. We'd go balance that shit out.
Yeah, Zion's lovely. I like it there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So that was just the one. I'm kind of thinking Idaho at the moment.
I mean, if we're going global and we've got funding to move everyone,
I want global.
I'm starting to eyeball New Zealand, also a beautiful place. How do you not want to move to fucking Hobbiton, fucking the Shire? That's where I want to move to.
Yeah, I've been there. It's quite nice.
Do you move to the Holy Land, or do you just visit the Holy Land?
Well, again,
this is the unholy land.
I'm the prophet of this unholy land, obviously.
Obviously, I forgot.
You've been away, so you didn't know. I am the duly elected president of atheism. That's how it works.
And the inventor of the Atheist Call-In Show.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Y'all are. It's really an honor for you all to meet me. Shall we move on? So, Rebecca, you don't know me very well, and I think the thing that that may be missed is I probably project the lowest self-esteem of anybody on the internet, which is why I think Aron and I are enjoying ourselves. Earlier, if you remember, a caller told me to go fuck myself.
I do remember that.
They weren't being mean. You'll probably see it in the super chats. Mean. Yeah, it's a meme on the channel because people see how visibly uncomfortable I get when they try to be nice to me or compliment me. So it's sort of a channel meme.
Oh, I also don't handle compliments very well.
Did you all know that the best jokes require explanation?
Oh, man, I love making my husband explain his jokes. And then after he's done explaining his joke, which he did have to do because I did not get it. And then I laugh and I'm like, hey, I made you explain your joke again.
You're a monster.
So $5 again from Northern Spike. Is the boycott of Chick-fil-A over? Have we won/gotten what we want other than them being closed on Sundays?
No, it's not over. What?
When was it happening? This is my counterpoint. Like there was a short period of time where, and then everybody here's the thing. I'm a socialist, no ethical consumption of a cat. I can say the cliches, but on my end, if it isn't organized, it's fucking pointless. Because look at what happened since we quote unquote boycotted. They have now, do you know what, this is real. You can read their internal documents about it. Do you know what Chick-fil-A's single greatest challenge is right now? That they are getting kicked out of malls because their to-go line is too long and it is obstructing the parking lot. That is their current worst financial hiccup. They are debatably the most successful chain out there. And if you go in there, it's not people doing it out of they're not, if you walk in, it's not like they're like, I didn't want a chicken sandwich today, but I hate them queers. There was a very short real boycott. So if you feel fine eating bigot chicken, it's probably not worse than where your Amazon packages came from. But I wish we actually had an ability to organize and do this as a real fucking thing. But at the moment, I do not give a fuck if people go get chicken sandwiches personally, because we're not doing shit.
I don't think I've ever had it. I don't think I've ever had anything from Chick-fil-A.
But have you ever had In-N-Out Burger?
A what?
In-N-Out Burger?
In-N-Out Burger.
I don't think so.
Until this moment, would anything have stopped you? Because they are arguably much worse.
I don't even know where an In-N-Out Burger is.
Oh, it's mostly California, but now it's been moving. How about okay, you're here with me. You ever been to Whataburger?
Yes.
I have been to a Whataburger, but not in many years. I used to work at a Whataburger.
Worse
when I was 15.
Corporate environment and the where that money goes, also worse. Homie.
Yeah, I went to a Whataburger, I want to say about a decade ago, and I took my picture outside of the building where they had they had some kind of Bible quote painted on their window.
Yeah, well, and they're closed on Sundays. Or no, Whataburger is it? Bromigo, you ever been to Home Depot? Don't look that shit up if you want to live with yourself.
I don't go to Home Depot.
Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
We should be having these like metaphorical ideological unions and actually boycotting shit. We fucking suck at it. Look at the fucking the biggest thing we saw this last year was the Harry Potter game. Boy, that went well. Oh, what? It set record sales? Oh, tight. We fucking nailed it, everybody. We suck at this shit.
Well, I kind of feel like if we say boycott, if we do, then they end up with more money. Because their people specifically, I mean, because they're willing to say, hey, we're willing to say Christian and all this other bullshit. And then people are like, okay, put all your dollars right there, right? And they'll line up in droves where, so I don't know. It's almost like
successfully before too, but even there we're acting like a bunch of fucking idiots. Like when they all started burning their Nikes and we went out and bought Nikes and saved Nike. Fuck Nike. Let Nike fucking die. That company is so unethical. Are you fucking kidding me? But then
Target, can you have an ethical company though?
Years ago they did you can't have an ethical company that's worth billions of dollars. I run a company. We do profit share. I think this is an ethical place to work, isn't it, Aron? Anyway,
yeah, I'm definitely talking about the corporate.
Aron's about to
monster.
Expose the abuses of working here. Yeah, no, I get the point. But like years ago, it was a little more understandable when we protected Target from the conservative boycotts. Meanwhile, a few years later, they're doing it again, and everybody's like, "Look, I don't like what they're doing, but inflation's a thing, and I can't pay Whole Foods prices for Walmart level items, and that's what Target is." It's the whole thing, the whole system fucking sucks. It's a ground up thing, and whether or not you're getting chicken sandwiches isn't going to do goddamn shit.
Somebody in the comments asked an important question. Somebody in the comments asked an important question about this. Where can you get a gay chicken challenge?
My house. I only eat gay chickens. They're really hard to find. Especially, well, never mind. Lesbian chickens, I suppose, because we really only eat the ladies.
So I used to eat Chick-fil-A, and I haven't since that boycott started. But my partner knows how to make it better than it is over there, and the secret is pickle juice. And so if anybody ever wants to have their pickle juice chicken.
No, that is their secret, is that they brine their chicken in pickle juice. I just hate pickles so fucking much. I have Raising Cane's, so I don't need to go to Chick-fil-A.
I like Raising Cane's too.
They're across the road from each other. And let me tell you this, I am not going to look up any shit about it. I don't want to know shit about Cane's owner. I want to live in my ignorance. If somebody emails me some shit, I will ban you from the show. If you're like, here's what they do, you have to stop it. I'm gonna keep eating that cane sauce. At this point, I'll turn I'll turn cis het just to be.
Yeah, don't ruin it for me either. I have a Cane's T-shirt, and I still wear it, and I don't know.
I wish they would just start over with the lemonade, though. The fucking lemonade is so boring.
The CEO drinks raped baby's blood while worshiping the devil.
That's usually what they say about atheists.
But he also gives money to the Trump campaign.
Isn't that you? No, wait, no, not that last one.
I feel like this is just I feel like you're just starting a QAnon conspiracy. It's exactly what they sound like.
$5 from the Raven 200. You guys are American. Bro, it's not like they chose to be born in the USA. Jimmy, go take a destructive death, annihilation type from Akaza. Somebody who plays video games should be answering these. I have no idea.
Well, he does a lot of wrestling references too. My favorite part of the show, I'm sorry, you two are great, but will be hearing Andrew's chuckle of defeat in response to my question when he was like, oh, right, they're participating in a democratic process. Bitch, I moved to Texas to try and turn it blue. You think I'm fucking, you want to, I went to, oh, sorry, I gotta, I can't even get my words in order right now.
All right, you read this one, Rebecca?
Is this Peebo Thulu?
Good enough.
$5 from, huh?
I think so.
Peebo Thulu? Yeah. Okay. Remember the late Sinead O'Connor stood up against the evils of Catholic Church way back in the 90s. Remember the pushback she received? Rest in peace. Yeah. I mean, it's arguable that that was career ending on some level. None of her later works got nearly as much traction as the earlier ones after that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's complicated.
But it's another one of those things.
Yeah. She lived a fucked up life. But she also stayed Catholic and then became a different type of Catholic that allowed women to be so it's not a perfect example, but yes, it is sad. That whole thing is sad.
And she died believing that Donald Trump was the literal devil.
Yeah, which, that's fine if you're gonna go with that. But she lived. I mean,
you're gonna peg something.
Yeah, she was a very tortured person, and I've always felt very bad for her.
Yeah, it was another one of the same, if I look at what her symptoms were, if I look what her childhood was like, if I look at which her experiences she went through during her experience in her meat suit, my heart breaks, and it's just like, it sounds like it was really hard. Oh, thank you. $10 from Northern Spike. Rebecca is awesome. Thank you.
That was technically Aron's turn to read, but...
Oh, I'm sorry, Aron. I stole it.
$9.99 from Christopher Eggett. I spent years saying I will just believe when I was Mormon. On my way out, I read Mormon Apologetics. The lengths people go to justify their magical beliefs is insane. Also, can I have my tithes back?
People have tried to sue the church for that, and they have failed every time. I'm actually related by marriage to one of the people who forced old Tommy Monson to have to go and give testimony in the UK.
It'd be nice if they could prove fraud, because I do feel like they were defrauded out of their money, but I understand that that's not the universe we currently live in.
And it's getting so much worse with the revelations about their $100 billion quote unquote rainy day fund. They are it's wild to have a religion with such a small number of members be perhaps the richest, or at least one of the richest entities in the world. It's wild. Just a wild thing. They only have like 18 million members, and only like a quarter of them are actually tithe payers. So
All right, $4.99 from Sarah Wilson. Last weekend, I saw the Book of Mormon for the first time. It was great, and luckily, there were no Mormons protesting outside the theater this time.
Yeah, that was a pretty good show.
I haven't seen
Where
it.
did you see it? Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay.
I haven't seen it. I actually mentioned this to my partner over the last 2 weeks. I was like, you know what? I still haven't seen the Book of Mormon, which is ridiculous. Especially because I like musicals. Like, it makes no sense, but it's on my radar now.
I wish they would do the Hamilton treatment that Disney Plus did, because that's
that would be amazing. I've watched that several times. The Disney Plus Hamilton.
That was one of my fixations. It was a solid 3 months straight of every day, maybe twice.
Nice.
Yeah.
$50 from Northern Spike. More of Rebecca's story.
All right. I can do that. So let's see. Which direction do we want to go with it? Huh? We can start with, how I became an atheist, right? I started at 14 whenever I was like, okay, saints. I don't think that that's right. And then it was the Nicene Creed that came next. It was, we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And I was like, wait, Catholic? And no, I don't believe in one holy church. I'm going to stop saying that line. And then after I stopped saying that first line, I got quiet during the parts I was supposed to be saying, because I was like, well, which part? Like, if I don't say that line, what other lines wouldn't I say? I don't know what I'm saying. I really don't understand what I'm saying, and I want to know what I'm saying, and I only want to say what I think. I want to be honest, right? I value honesty, and I want to make sure that what I'm saying is honest, and I'm not being honest whenever I just say this stuff. So that walked it back a bit. And then by 15 or 16, I was crying because I was so sure I would go to hell, because I had doubts. And I was like, oh no, I have doubts. What am I supposed to do? I can't even stop having them. I can't make it so that I can magically not have doubts. I have them. I can't do anything. And I wanted to be a good person, and I wanted to feel good about myself. But this whole doubt thing wasn't going anywhere. So then by 17, I'm following all the rules, right? High masking, autism, all this stuff. And, I got voted most likely to be a nun by the people around me, because they knew what I was like. They knew I'm the designated driver. I'm the one who's not doing the stuff that everyone's doing. I'm the observer. I'm going to make the right decision, whatever that is. Of course, I'll push all the boundaries and do fun stuff along the way. I have lots of well, I didn't actually break any rules, situations where I pushed things really far. For instance, when I was 15 in my civics and humanities class, I had to create a business, and it had to be a legal business, and I had to make all this documentation. So I went with a whorehouse in Nevada because it was legal. And then I made all of these forms you had to fill out so that you could check out a 12-inch brass dildo. And then, I was supposed to present this to the class, and my teacher was approving this all along the way. Yeah, this is fine because it's legal and it checks out. And then whenever I was presenting it, somebody was like, I don't think this is appropriate. And then I got in trouble for that. And so, so I'm along the way, yes, I was doing some things that were very boundary pushing. And then it wasn't until I had gotten into college, I took my first semester, I was required to take certain classes, and one of them was humanities, the very first class, 101. And that one really got my attention. I was presented with philosophy. I was presented with different religions. I was presented with, The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. They're pushing these Bertrand Russell and things like that. And I'm like, I want to take another one of those classes. So I'll sign up for that next semester. But I, still was not doing that. But the next class had me questioning more, and the next class had me questioning more. And eventually I was like, look, I'm not going to be able to reconcile myself with myself unless I figure this stuff out. So I ended up, my school did not offer a comparative religion degree, but that's kind of what I wanted. And so I approached a humanities professor, and I was like, hey, how do I do this? And he's like, honestly, I think you should just go to general studies, and then I will sponsor you. Yeah. And then I was able to create my own degree. And ended up an atheist, and I walked away being like, oh my God, I got a degree in nothing and bullshit. This is annoying. Right. And so that was in 2005. And then after that, but like who around me was an atheist? I didn't get to atheism through books. I didn't get there through Dawkins. I didn't get there through people. I didn't get there through friends or like a community of anything whatsoever. In fact, my final thesis was on collectivism versus individualism. And I was making the case for why in the society that we live in now, we no longer have to do the collectivism thing, and we have the ability to survive with individualism. And so, right. And so I got there and I had nobody with me. And then I just existing, I had no idea there was a movement. That stuff all came like after when I was doing all this stuff. And so I just wasn't aware. And so whenever Wolf Blitzer enters the picture and asks me if I'm an atheist, actually, he didn't. He asked me if I thank the Lord. And then I was like going to say, my first answer was, no, right? And I don't want to do that. And so that's why you hear the pause, the I, like, what am I going to do? Because it's not just like, go fuck yourself. No, right? Instead, I went with, I'm actually an atheist. But I don't blame anybody for thanking the Lord because I lived. And so if you want to be like happy about that, I'm chill with that. I'm glad that you are also thrilled with the fact that I didn't die just now. After that, though,
I still want one of your T-shirts.
Oh yeah,
I'm actually
I'll be doing
atheist.
that. I have my book coming up, which is where this is going. Is I have my book coming up, and whenever I do that, I'll probably have shirts and everything available. Then because I have several different designs for that. But what ended up happening was I was pretty much accosted inside of my house by religious people who came, and they were being really mean to me, and they were like, you're raising your baby without Jesus. Like, they were rude to me in my destroyed home. And that in that moment I was just like, okay, I'm going to find wherever the atheists are that are out helping people rebuild their homes, and I'm going to tell them like, hey, even if they believe in religion, like, just like let it go, because they're going through a lot, and you're just going to need to like let that go during that moment. Like, let them just whatever, because their life is destroyed, and that is really, really like, it's not the time. Just wait a little bit. And so I thought I would go find the atheist doing that, and it was just not a thing. And so I was like, oh, I tend to create things. I have a Sandy Ninninger Medal, which is from the oldest and largest volunteer organization in the country. I won that whenever I was in high school. It's like the highest honor that they give out. And so take my background, and I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, I can build a volunteer organization. I have a background in that. So I looked at where it would be best suited, which was Foundation Beyond Belief, grew the program from there. After that, I have been, a mother. I've written a book that's going to be coming out. It is a children's book about a little girl who's autistic, and she likes to create new universes. And I have a really good time with that one. I'm excited for that to come out. And that, yeah, Aron, like you said, I'll let you know whenever the shirts are up again.
Okay. And then we still have a chat to read. I've got $10 from the Raven 200. Says, I'm also an autistic atheist. I got into religion and science for a while in 2013. Stopped believing in God in 2014. Aron Ra is a big reason why. Jimmy, get trapped in the Tsukiyomi by Itachi Uchiha. I have no idea how to say any of that. It was my best attempt.
You were close enough. Tsukuyomi, Itachi Uchiha. This is pretty close. It's like for the sake of not explaining everything from that series, it's basically a power that allows you to make a person, in the matter of a few seconds, live some experience that's much longer than it feels like the few seconds. So it's usually used as a weapon. You can like trap somebody in where they think that they're in a world where they're being stabbed over and over and over again for days, weeks, years, but it actually all happens in a few seconds. It's a ninja thing. It's from anime.
Okay, $5 from I Got Cookies. Physicists have recently just proved that something can indeed come from nothing. It's now called the Schwinger effect. Awesome, huh? Yeah, I love that. Cool. I'll look at, I like to look into the physics stuff. That's a special interest of mine.
Well, here's your opportunity if you don't want to be a hypocrite.
Yeah, right? I'm about to write it down. I got my pen out already.
Call back. Last one, unless people send in their super chats now. Send it, pays for the show, pays for the call-in system, pays for Aron to come back. He always tells me if we don't hit the right numbers, he's never coming back.
$5 from Nee. Aron, have you had a chance to discuss Michael Behe and irreducible complexity to P-Town? He doesn't know just how badly that was debunked in court. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Yeah, I would love to discuss that with P-Town at some point. We do have some talks that we're trying to schedule. There were a number of things that, surprisingly, the one creationist that participates in my Blasphemers Bible weekly show, me and this creationist, we found have a few disagreements. So we're going to find a moment to hash those out.
Oh, fuck, dude. Does he want to do dual logs over here? Do you know what that is? We're doing one of our new debate shows that we're launching. We'll talk about it. I'll call you later and we'll see if, okay. But basically it's what you guys are doing now, but you would replace Rebecca with P-Town. Is that their name? Yep. The creationist. And you would take calls and you both get to respond to the question. And so it's sort of it's kind of a different debate show because it's more town hall style and it more focuses on the consequences of differing beliefs, which I think is way better than the current fucking garbage debate shows that have permeated the internet. Oh my God.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy, awful. I gotta chime in on this. On all the debates that I've done, my favorite part of them has always been the audience Q&A. Yeah. I notice that people will have a question that is aimed at one or the other people. Right. And it's usually whoever's got the most outrageous opinion or whatever. But I mean, I always thought that would be the best way to have a debate is for both sides to answer whatever question. You don't get to aim it at one person or the other.
So in this scenario, in dual logs, the person is allowed to say who the question is for. And the only advantages it gives is that person gets to respond first. But you both get to respond to the question otherwise.
Do y'all time the answers?
Yes, yeah. The whole thing's going to be on timers, and yeah. So Matt and I have both designed our own debate shows. Matt's doing N Boss, which he thinks is going to be very good, and I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying mine's way better. No, I'm just kidding. We haven't even pretended this is a competition. I just like the idea of mine very much. Matt's is very. Matt's debate show is perfect for Matt Dillahunty. It's like it's very tailored to what he's great at. It's almost like a long version of a call on, which was his goal. This isn't a criticism. That was his goal. But I'm excited for dual logs because I'm excited to see all of you. I don't even give a fuck if I end up being one of the debaters on dual logs. It also, the other thing I love about dual logs is it minimizes, the moderator will basically be there just to pipe calls and to enforce timers. Otherwise, the moderator will keep their fucking mouth shut, unlike I seem to be capable of.
You're fun. It's like the voice of God chiming in.
Thank you. I think
that's
true
God.
Too. That is also the metaphor I would have used.
There's a number of reasons that I wanted this kind of format, and I'm really delighted that you're suggesting the very thing that I wanted to see years ago when I started doing these debates. I also like the fact that there's no preparation necessary because it seems to me it just adds to the thing about talking past each other. Think about the logic of this. If I'm the second person going up, I'm supposed to prepare, I'm supposed to write in advance a presentation to answer a thing I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
How can I have an opening argument that has anything to do with what the other guy says? He hasn't said it, and because I haven't heard it yet, and neither can I contradict any of the citations he's made when he says that X study says this. In those times when it's been a written discussion, then I therefore get a chance to read the thing before I write my reply. Invariably, whenever a creationist has said, X study shows this, I would find the study because I don't usually tell you what it is. You have to go find it without any clues. And then I find out that, look, it actually doesn't say that at all. Invariably, every time.
Oh, and because we still live in a capitalist hellscape and therefore I have to play the part of a capitalist pig, there will be a portion, I don't know if it'll be half and half, but we'll say at least the first hour will be the call way where people get to call in with their direct questions. And then the second part of the show, we'll do the super chat way. So
okay,
get them.
That would be an idea for one of the shows too. By the way, is capitalist or socialist or some appropriate interpretation thereof.
Oh yeah,
I'll be completely honest. The only reason I don't identify as a socialist is because when I've taken a battery of tests to identify my political stance, none of them have identified me as a socialist.
Socialism. So the thing is when you take those political tests, they only account for based on the idea of mostly American, but you could even say somewhat European, the European center being the center, whereas socialism itself has, so for example, I am a libertarian socialist. I very much want to eliminate billionaires. I want to turn over the means of production to the people. However, when it comes to personal life shit, if I want to fucking, dedicate my life to meth, leave me the fuck alone. Not meth is a bad example because that one I probably still would leave regulated. But as far as what people want to do in the privacy of their own home, unless they're harming other people, let them do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm kind of there too. But I don't know if the socialist label applies to me. When I told my son that I still identify as capitalist, he says, why?
Yeah.
And it was interesting that I don't really know how to answer that question other than the answer I just gave you.
We run this company pretty socialist.
Okay, so as far as how I identify, like I use the capitalistic system because I don't actually have a solution to not using it. I mean, I could go be homeless or I could go, right? There's like a lot of things I could do, but instead I need to play this game or whatever. And so I look at what the rules are. I look and I take it seriously because my well-being is based upon whether or not I can play this game.
Yeah.
And so technically, yeah, I'm using the capitalistic system. And yes, I technically am a capitalist because I am looking at the rules and playing it very seriously. But I do not think it's a good system. I think it's a horrible system. I would love for a different system. I have ideas on that system. That doesn't exist. That I live right now.
You're a capitalist the way Andrew yelled, "You're an American" earlier.
Yeah, I'm trapped. I'm trapped.
I get it. I'm right with you.
I'm a hostage of the system. I'm enslaved. Like what?
We have what are we up to? Like 9 people on our payroll here, and so like I still spend a very good portion of my month as the person at the top of the pyramid scheme, figuring out how to keep paying those people. I think a lot of time. I spent a lot of time trying to enhance capital, because that's the world we fucking live in. But
it's reality.
We do run on profit share, which I think is the most equitable way. However, I'll never give up more than 49% control of the company because I'm still a little authoritarian. Anyway, is this the next one or did we read this one?
We read it.
Okay, so we'll blast through these last couple and say goodnight.
Who are we on?
$6.99 Canadian, or often I say Californian.
I say
from Matthew
dollars.
Phillip. Aron, is there any reason for me to not go to BajaCon? Great show. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Well, if you're in Canada and you're in range, I don't know why you wouldn't go to BajaCon.
Do whatever your heart tells you. They're not sponsored by Chick-fil-A.
$5 from the Raven 200 butts.
Thank you, Raven 200. I agree. I mean, I think that there is a superior position to this one. However, I do support this position.
$10 from Northern Spike. Buttes.
That's one of the superior positions.
Am I right? Okay, $5 from Dylan Fuller. I really like Rebecca. Oh, thanks. Please come back. We're really similar, and I think you're really cool. And if I could I'd totally talk to you for hours. Hey, you can reach out to me. I'll talk to people. I like talking. So, yeah, Dylan, you could totally talk to me. I'll respond.
That's the last one, I think, unless something comes in right now. Well, yay is always sort of like, yay, we almost get to go to bed. But on the other hand, people are no longer sending us money to read.
Oh, well, yeah, I got a different situation. As soon as I got up this show, I've got so much editing and recording and writing to do.
Dude, I got to get one more video out for my patrons before, and I wrote the video during the show, but I will say it's very funny.
Yeah, I'm going to be up all night doing this thing.
I'm going to make fun of Elon Musk.
As you
Enjoy. I'm going to go and look up this Schwinger effect and learn all about it. Yay!
Be very careful when you spell that. There's an entirely other website. It's out of Utah, famously, that is spelled very similarly.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember my daughter when she was like, I don't know, 14, something like that. She wanted to hear this song by I think Beyonce. It was called "Dirty Girl," and so she types it. She goes, "I just typed 'Dirty Girl' into a browser. What was I thinking?"
Bro, in 7th grade, I had to do a thing where, like, one of those bound reports where, and I had to do 1 page per president of the United States, and that was back when I meant to go to whitehouse.gov. Does everyone already know what's happening here? Does everyone remember when one of the most famous porn sites in the world was whitehouse.com? And that...
I do remember that. I do remember that.
I saw my first titty and was scared to tell my parents for days. And I'm not kidding, at like 11 or 12 years old, I would have been, I guess 12 if it's 7th grade. That seems to make sense in my brain. I, for days, was just hyper fixated on the newfound knowledge that lady nipples are bigger than boy nipples. I was like terrified of the amount of areola. Now I celebrate these differences, but at the time, it was a frightening experience for me. Anyway, here's the patrons. Do you want to read the outro stuff? Is that on the outline?
I closed that. I thought we were done. Sorry.
There was like an after first call and after second call. Then the music plays. We say, everybody, you can go to patreon.com/calltheline. And if you go to our top tier, you can be one of the credits over here. We'd like to thank our guest today for showing up. You can find her links down in the chat. This has been SkepTalk. I'm Aron Ra. That'll work. Have a good night, everybody.
I'm Jimmy Snow.
That'll work. Aron, you're the last one. You gotta tell the people who you are.
Go fuck Jimmy. No, I'm Rebecca.
There you go.